Have you ever found yourself at the end of a long day or a long week, scrolling endlessly through your phone, feeling a strange kind of emptiness? You've done everything you were supposed to do. You've earned your rest, your moment of leisure. And yet, in that quiet space that you feel like a reward, there's a hollowness, a nagging sense of dissatisfaction. It's a profound and deeply modern paradox. We live in an age of unprecedented comfort, with more wealth, more entertainment, and more free time than any generation in human history. Yet we report staggering levels of anxiety, boredom, and a pervasive feeling that something vital is missing. Why is it that the very moments we've been conditioned to crave, the vacations, the weekends, the mindless relaxation, so often fail to deliver the happiness we expect? And conversely, why do we sometimes look back on periods of intense struggle, of deep, focused effort, and remember them as the best times of our lives? This question, this subtle ache at the heart of modern existence, is not just a passing thought. It's a fundamental inquiry into the nature of human experience itself. And for one man, a psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, this question wasn't just an academic puzzle. It was an obsession born from the ashes of a world that had lost its meaning entirely. He didn't just want to understand this paradox. He needed to solve it, to find a map for a life well lived in a world that seemed designed to distract us from it. His journey would lead him away from the well-trodden paths of psychology, away from studying disease and dysfunction, and into the minds of people who had somehow, against all odds, mastered the art of living. This is the story of that quest, and a profound discovery that would change our understanding of happiness forever. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's quest for meaning began not in a sterile university laboratory, but in the chaos and despair of post-World War II Europe. As a young boy, he had witnessed firsthand complete collapse of the social structures that were supposed to give life meaning. He saw adults, people he had once looked up to, stripped of their purpose and their dignity by the ravages of war. Religion, patriotism, tradition, all the old answers to the question of why we are here had crumbled into dust. He watched as they drifted, lost and broken, unable to find a reason to get out of bed in the morning. He saw how, without a compelling goal or belief system to anchor them, their minds turned inward, consumed by anxiety, fear, and bitterness. It was a terrifying spectacle, and it imprinted a single, burning question onto his young mind. In a world where external sources of meaning can vanish overnight, how can an individual build a life that is joyful and worth living from the inside out? This question propelled him toward the field of psychology, but he quickly grew disillusioned. In the mid-20th century, psychology was almost entirely focused on pathology. It was a science of what was wrong with people, of neurosis, trauma, and mental illness. It offered very little insight into what made people feel genuinely good, what made them strong, creative, or fulfilled. It could tell you all about misery, but almost nothing about joy. He realized he was looking in the wrong place. The answer wasn't in textbooks about dysfunction. It was out in the world, hidden within the experiences of people who were deeply engaged in their lives. So he began to study them, not just the famous and successful, but ordinary people who found extraordinary satisfaction in what they did. He interviewed artists who would lose all track of time while painting, so absorbed in the canvas that they would forget to eat or sleep. He spoke to chess masters who described a feeling of ecstatic harmony during a difficult match. Their minds operated with a clarity and power they rarely experienced otherwise. He studied rock climbers, surgeons, composers, and poets, and he started to see a pattern. These people, from wildly different walks of life, were describing the same internal state. It was a state of such complete absorption in an activity that everything else, the worries of the world, the sense of self, even the passage of time, seemed to disappear. They described it as a feeling of being carried by a current, of moving effortlessly with a deep sense of focus and enjoyment. It was this recurring metaphor being carried by a river that led Csikszentmihalyi to give this optimal state a name: flow. To study it scientifically, he pioneered a new research method called the experience sampling method. He gave people pagers. This was long before smartphones, that would go off at random times throughout the day. When the pager beeped, the participant had to stop and write down what they were doing and rate their feelings of happiness, engagement, and concentration at that exact moment. For years, he collected thousands upon thousands of these snapshots of daily life from people all over the world, building an unprecedented database of human experience. This was the raw, unfiltered data that would finally allow him to map the landscape of fulfilling life and uncover the secret hidden in plain sight. The first major breakthrough from this mountain of data was a stunning contradiction of modern assumptions about happiness. The data was unequivocal. People were not at their happiest when they were relaxing, in their moments of leisure, when they were watching television or just lying around with nothing to do. They consistently reported feeling apathetic, bored, and slightly anxious. Their minds, left to their own devices, would drift toward problems, worries, and insecurities. This state of psychic entropy, as Csikszentmihalyi called it, was a default human condition, a baseline of mental chaos. In stark contrast, the moments of highest reported happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction were almost always moments of intense, focused effort. They occurred when people were at work, engaged in a challenging project, or pursuing a difficult hobby. A surgeon performing a complex operation, a mechanic trying to diagnose a tricky engine problem, a gardener meticulously planting a new flower bed. These were the moments when people felt truly alive. From these thousands of data points, the first core principle of flow emerged. It wasn't a random feeling. It was a state that arose under a very specific set of conditions. The first condition was the presence of clear goals. In a flow state, you know exactly what you need to do from one moment to the next. The rock climber isn't thinking about her career or her relationships. Her only goal is to find the next handhold. The chess player's goal is to counter his opponent's last move. This clarity of intention focuses the mind and eliminates distraction. The second condition was immediate and unambiguous feedback. You need to know, in real time, whether you are succeeding or failing. The climber feels her grip hold firm or slip. The musician hears the note come out perfectly in tune or slightly flat. This constant stream of feedback keeps you engaged and allows for continuous adjustment, creating a seamless loop of action and reaction. But the most crucial condition, the one that forms the very heart of the flow channel, is a delicate and dynamic balance between the level of challenge and your own level of skill. If the challenge is too high for your current skill level, you feel anxiety and stress. If your skill far exceeds the challenge, you feel boredom and apathy. Flow exists on the narrow, razor's edge between these two states. It happens when a task pushes you to the very limits of your abilities, forcing you to stretch and grow. You are not overwhelmed, but you are fully challenged. It is in this state of high challenge meeting high skill that the magic happens. Your concentration becomes so intense that there is no room left in your awareness for anything else. The constant chatter of your inner monologue goes silent. Self-consciousness vanishes. You are no longer a separate entity worrying about how you look or what others think. You merge with the activity itself. Your sense of time becomes distorted. Hours can feel like minutes. This, Csikszentmihalyi discovered, was the blueprint for optimal experience. It was a reason why struggle and effort, not passive leisure, were the true sources of our deepest satisfaction. But this discovery, as powerful as it was, created a new and even more perplexing question. If the conditions for flow were so clear, why wasn't everyone experiencing it more often? Why could two people in the exact same job, facing the same challenges and possessing similar skills, have vastly different internal experiences? Take, for example, the story of two workers on a factory assembly line, a job often seen as the epitome of monotonous, soul-crushing labor. One worker, whom we'll call Rico, found his job to be a source of constant enjoyment. He treated it like an Olympic sport. He had turned the repetitive task of welding machine parts into a complex game. He set personal records for speed and efficiency, constantly experimenting with new techniques to shave fractions of a second off his time. He learned the inner workings of every machine, becoming the go-to person for repairs. He had taken a boring, excellently controlled environment and transformed it into a rich, complex flow activity that he controlled. His co-worker, on the other hand, doing the same job right next to him, was miserable. He saw his work as a prison sentence, counting the seconds until he could go home, relax, and, as his ESM data would likely show, feel bored and apathetic in front of the TV. The external conditions were identical, but their internal experiences were worlds apart. This complication revealed a deeper truth. The external environment was only half of the equation. The first principle wasn't the whole story. There had to be an internal component, a psychological skill that enabled people like Rico to find flow even in the most unlikely of circumstances. This led Csikszentmihalyi to his second great discovery, the concept of the autotelic personality. The word autotelic comes from two Greek roots, auto meaning self and telos meaning goal. An autotelic activity is one that is its own reward. You do it not for some future benefit like money or fame, but for the sheer enjoyment of the experience itself. An autotelic personality, therefore, belongs to an individual who has learned to create these rewarding experiences in all aspects of life. They have a mindset that is not dependent on external rewards. They are driven by curiosity and a desire to engage with the world. They are able to set their own goals, find their own challenges, and focus their attention in a disciplined way, regardless of what is happening around them. They have, in essence, an inner capacity to reframe reality, to turn potential threats into enjoyable challenges, and to find novelty in the mundane. This was the missing piece of the puzzle. It explained why some people could languish in paradise, surrounded by every comfort but perpetually bored, while others could find or found joy and meaning in a prison camp or a hospital bed, by transforming their grim reality into a manageable game of survival and mental discipline. The ability to enter flow was not just about what you were doing. It was about who you were being. It was a skill, a way of ordering consciousness that could be learned and cultivated. This is where the two great streams of his research converge into a single, powerful river. The external conditions, clear goals, immediate feedback, the balance of challenge and skill, were the structure of the riverbed. The internal disposition, the autotelic personality, was a water that flowed through it, carving its own path. The grand synthesis, the unifying moment of Csikszentmihalyi's entire life's work, is the realization that happiness is not a destination, a feeling, or possession. It is a state of consciousness that we must actively create and cultivate. The natural state of the mind, he argued, is chaos, a psychic entropy where anxieties, random thoughts, and external distractions constantly pull our attention apart. We spend most of our lives reacting to these forces, feeling like we are at their mercy. Happiness, in this context, is simply the byproduct of overcoming the psychic entropy. Overcoming it is a focused, ordered attention of the flow state. The act of entering flow is the act of taking conscious control over your own mind. When you fully invest your attention in a challenging task that matters to you, you are imposing order on your consciousness. You are creating a small, self-contained universe of purpose where the chaotic noise of the outside world cannot enter. In that ordered state, the self finds harmony. This is the ultimate why. The reason a surgeon feels bliss in the operating room or a rock climber feels ecstasy on a cliff face is because, for those precious moments, they have achieved a total mastery over their own inner world. They have silenced the entropy. The grand idea is that a good life is not one that is free from challenges, but one that is full of challenges we have chosen for ourselves, challenges that stretch our skills and command our full attention. Meaning is not something we discover. It is something we forge in the crucible of focused effort. This fundamentally reframes the entire human project. We are not passive seekers of happiness, hoping to stumble upon it one day. We are the architects of our own inner experience, with the power to build a life of engagement and fulfillment, moment by moment, through the deliberate and skillful investment of our most precious resource, our attention. The journey we've taken, from a young boy's question in the rubble of post-war Europe to the sophisticated mapping of human consciousness, reveals a profound truth. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. Optimal experience is something that we make happen. The blueprint, then, is both beautifully simple and a lifelong challenge. It begins with taking your consciousness seriously. Instead of letting your attention be hijacked by the endless distractions of the modern world, you must choose where to invest it. Start by transforming passive leisure into active engagement. Turn off the television and pick up an instrument, a book on a challenging topic, a sketchbook, or a complex recipe. in your work, and in your life. Actively seek out the razor's edge between boredom and anxiety. If a task is too easy, find a way to make it harder. Set a time limit. Aim for a higher standard of quality. Invent a new challenge. If a task is too hard, break it down into smaller, more manageable sub-goals, and focus on improving the specific skills required. Cultivate that autotelic mindset by learning to find joy in the process itself, not just in the final reward. Pay attention to what you are doing, and you might just find a universe of complexity and enjoyment where you once saw only monotony. This is not a quick fix or a simple life hack. It is a fundamental reorientation of how we approach our lives, a commitment to becoming the active author of your own experience. Understanding this is a crucial first step, but the real transformation happens when you begin to consciously design your life around the pursuit of flow. The path is clear. The only question that remains is whether you will choose to walk it. If this journey of mastering your inner world resonates with you, then join a community committed to this kind of intentional living by subscribing. It's more than just a click. It's a declaration that you are ready to stop being a passive consumer of life and start being the architect of your own fulfillment. Begin today, for the power to shape your consciousness is the greatest power you will ever